Wagwan, Jamaica, good afternoon and welcome to Consular Conversations Live from the U.S. Embassy here in Kingston, Jamaica. Joining me today is Consul General Anne-Marie Chiappetta and Deputy Consul General Maureen Smith. Before I have a chance to introduce you, I will ask that you please follow us on Twitter and Facebook at US Embassy JA, and remember that this is streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So welcome, Consul General, Deputy Consul General. How are you enjoying things in Jamaica so far?
It's amazing so far. We've both been here a really short period of time. I've been here about a month.
And I just got here last week.
Okay, the weather's been treating you well?
The weather is good so far. I think we're hoping for rain for Jamaica.
Yes, hopefully rainy season will deliver us some rain and the ability to process more visa and ACS applicants at our consular section. So we will have some Q&A at the later part of this Consular Conversations. But before we jump into that, can you share a little bit about your background?
Sure. I've been with the State Department as a consular officer for 18 years. I started my career in the Caribbean in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. And then I was in Pretoria, South Africa, Freetown, Sierra Leone, the south of France in Marseille, Caracas, Venezuela, in Washington. And I'm coming from 3 years in Monterrey, Mexico. I'm super pleased to be here. This is my kind of place, and I'm looking forward to being here for 3 years.
Very cool. And Deputy Consul General, could you share a little bit about your background?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Maureen Smith. And as I said, I just arrived in Jamaica last week. I started around 20 years ago in the State Department, and I went first to Recife, Brazil. I've been to several posts in Mexico, and I went to Dominican Republic and Port-au-Prince, Haiti, but I was there after Anne-Marie. And I most recently came from Guadalajara, Mexico. Monterrey was the H-2 visa giant in Mexico, but we did process some H-2 visas as well. And I'm really looking forward to being here in Jamaica and exploring the island. I can tell already that it's a beautiful place and the people are so nice and so warm. And my family and I are really excited to be here.
Thank you both. We're very blessed to have you. You have a wealth of experience to share. You're clearly world travelers with a wide array of experiences, and particularly in Latin America and the Caribbean. So I think we're very lucky to have you both leading our consular section here at the U.S. Embassy, and we're really looking forward to what the next few years have to bring. I want to remind the audience listening right now that you can submit questions directly through Twitter and Facebook, and we will attempt to answer them as they come in. I want to remind everyone that we cannot dive into the specifics of individual visa cases, and that if you have any personally identifiable information or any specific questions, that you please email Kingston NIV@state.gov for non-immigrant visa questions, Kingston IV@state.gov for immigrant visa questions, and Kingston ACS@state.gov for American Citizen Services questions. I also would like to do a quick announcement to ask all American citizens traveling to Jamaica or elsewhere abroad to please enroll in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program at step.travel.state.gov. This is a program that allows the U.S. Embassy and the State Department to send broadcast messages and alerts in local areas. For example, we are now in hurricane season, and we want to be able to share weather-related updates with American citizens traveling here in the Caribbean. We also would like to remind visa applicants to please schedule appointments before September 30th. The current MRV fees that were paid are only valid through September 30th, 2023. That does not mean that you need to have an actual appointment before that date, but it does need to be scheduled before then, before the visa fee increases to $185. Okay, so we have a few questions coming in right now. On June 17th, 2023, the NIV application processing fee for visitor visas for business or tourism and other non-petition-based NIVs will increase from $160 to $185. The fee for certain petition-based NIVs for temporary workers will increase from $190 to $205. The fee for a treaty trader, treaty investor, and treaty applicants in a specialty occupation visa will increase from $205 to $315. So do all of these visa applicants have to schedule an appointment before September 30th?
So if someone has already paid a visa fee for a non-immigrant visa, they should schedule their appointment, perhaps into the future, but they should take the action of scheduling that appointment before September 30th. They don't actually have to have the interview before then, but if they don't schedule the appointment in the appointment system before then, that visa fee will expire and they will have to pay anew.
Thank you.
At the new fee rate, of course.
Thank you. And folks can do that by visiting the U.S. Embassy's website and going through the appointment scheduling system.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. We have Chad from Facebook asking, what is the current wait time for visitor visas?
For visitor visas, it's approximately 140 days.
Okay.
It moves around a little bit, but that means that we have some appointment availability in December. What I would like to share is that we are deeply committed to reducing those wait times. We understand that it's very important for Jamaicans to be able to get a visa appointment and only wait a reasonable amount of time, what I would consider a pre-pandemic normal amount of time. And so we're all here working very hard. We have some good news, which is that we have more staff than we have had in our consular section performing interviews, and that everyone is very invested in providing excellent customer service to the citizens that we serve and reducing those wait times expeditiously.
Thank you. So this is actually a good segue to remind everyone listening right now that it's middle of August. So you just heard our Consul General say it's about 140 days. So if you have holiday travel coming up, now's the time to schedule a visa appointment. That includes the winter holidays and then the Easter holidays coming up later. American citizens, please remember to check the validity of your child's passports. Now is the peak of back to school season, and you really don't want to have a travel plan for your child to start school only to arrive at the airport and realize that their passport is not valid for travel. The U.S. Embassy does require both parents to be present for the passport interview or the non-present parent to submit a signed and notarized DS-3053 consent form. Please do not submit consent forms notarized by local Jamaican notaries, as those cannot be accepted. It needs to be notarized either in the U.S. or here at the U.S. Embassy in Kingston, Jamaica. There is no fee assessed for a parent to come in to have their consent form notarized by a vice consul here at the embassy.
May I add one thing to that excellent set of information? So we always encourage people not to schedule non-refundable travel prior to having a valid travel document in hand. So with the wait time, it's possible that you may have to hold off on making travel plans, but that's the wisest thing to do, especially if the travel plans are non-refundable.
We really don't want you to have to lose those travels, and it's best to prepare in advance and have valid travel documents. Now, I think something that we often see is people are able to travel down here to Jamaica on their valid Jamaican passports, and they think that they can return back to the U.S. using a birth certificate or a Jamaican passport or a certificate of naturalization. Unfortunately, it is U.S. law to travel in and out of the U.S. You need to have valid U.S. travel documents. So if you are here on island and you plan to travel to the U.S. and you are a U.S. citizen, you do need to make sure that you have a valid U.S. passport. Okay, going back to visa questions, we have Korean on Facebook asking an IV question.
Okay.
So can we get an update of the F2B visa class? All other categories have seen movement except for this one.
Thank you very much for the question. I can tell that you know a lot about the immigrant visa process. And for the F2B category, the wait usually is the longest of all of the immigrant visas. I believe right now the priority date is September of 2015, but you can check that on, if you look for visa bulletin on travel.state.gov, you can check that because it does vary according to some nationalities. And if you do have any doubts, you can always write to the National Visa Center. Like if you think that your case is current and they haven't contacted you yet for documents that you need to send in to them, it would be a good idea to contact the National Visa Center, which is in New Hampshire, and you can get their contact information on travel.state.gov.
Thank you very much, Maureen. We have a NIV question now. So we have Ken Roy from YouTube writing that I am an H-2A farm worker who has gone to the United States to work every year. I don't have my visa for this season yet. Will I have to come to the embassy to renew?
That's a great question. I appreciate it. So as you probably know, as a returning worker, there are certain categories of seasonal and temporary workers that are currently eligible for interview waiver. And that permission is reviewed right now on a yearly basis. And we are hoping that there will be no changes for 2024 and that the people who have been eligible for visa interview waiver will continue to be eligible.
Okay. We have Nikisha from Facebook asking, I'm an American citizen and my child was born in Jamaica. How do I get them a U.S. passport? So contrary to the belief of many applicants, it's not an immediate road to a U.S. passport if the child does not have a U.S. birth certificate. The service that we offer for children born abroad, and in this case born in Jamaica, is known as the Consular Report of Birth Abroad, which serves effectively as an equivalent to a U.S. birth certificate to children born to U.S. citizen parents abroad. So in order to schedule a Consular Report of Birth Abroad appointment, please email Kingston Cribba, that is Kingston C as in Charlie, R as in Robert, B as in boy, A as in apple at state.gov. Please include the name of the applicant child in the subject line, and there will be instructions sent back to you on what is required to apply. It depends on whether both parents are U.S. citizens, whether the parents were married at the time of the child's birth, and we can dive into further details about the process with you over email. After the appointment is made, you can actually pay for a Consular Report of Birth Abroad application and a U.S. passport application at the same time. Both parents and the child need to be present for the interview. And if the Consular Report of Birth Abroad application is approved, we generally are able to approve the passport application on the same day. And then it's about a 2 to 3 week wait time to receive those documents. Andrew from Twitter is asking, I am a legal permanent resident in the United States. I want to return home, but lost my green card. What should I do, Maureen?
Thank you for the question. Please make an appointment with us. I believe it's Kingston IV at state.gov. And we will ask you to provide certain documents, and you'll also have to pay on the USCIS website for the replacement of the lost green card. And then we will have you come in and have an interview. And if everything's okay, Then we issue you what's called a boarding foil, and we stick it in your passport, and then you can be on your way.
That sounds like a pretty involved process, but it sounds like those who are legal permanent residents do have a way to travel back to the US. Now, if someone happened to misplace their green card, would you agree that if they know where it is at home, that perhaps it's sometimes an easier process for them to have it mailed to them rather than going through the boarding foil process?
I completely agree, because it's also quite expensive to go online and pay for the replacement of the green card. And so you should make every effort, like if you got all the way down here and you realize you don't have it on you and you know it's at home in Florida, have someone there just scour your house and look for it and then send it to you. Likewise, if you think you got here and then you lost it misplaced it once you're here, then please do a really thorough job of looking for it, because it's better for you to just find it and use it if you think you haven't lost it completely.
Thank you, Maureen. And another immigrant visa question we have from Christine on Facebook. She writes, I recently got my immigrant visa. Can I travel on the date that my immigrant visa expires?
Yes, but I highly, highly recommend that you not do it that same day, because what if something happens and there's weather and you can't take off the same day? You absolutely want to try and travel several days before that visa expires, because you don't know what might happen at the last minute.
That makes sense. I think we all took a deep breath there. And I just want to give a quick plug while we're here for folks to always be aware that you can visit jm.usembassy.gov. That's J as in Jerry, M as in Mary, .usembassy.gov for answers to many of the questions that have been posed today. And you can always email us at KingstonNIV@state.gov for non-immigrant visa questions, KingstonIV@state.gov for immigrant visa questions, and KingstonACS@state.gov for American Citizen Services questions. Now, to come back to you, Maureen, we have Chad from Twitter saying, my family is applying for an immigrant visa and we need to take a medical exam. What is the IV medical exam?
Okay, the IV medical exam is all applicants have to go to what we call a panel physician. So it is only one medical practice here in Kingston that is authorized to do the medical exam. You have to go there. Certain vaccines are required. You have to be examined by a physician, and then they give you a report, and we review that report. And then for most applicants, it's fine. But the purpose of the exam is to make sure that the applicant doesn't have any harmful behavior or maybe some chronic serious medical conditions, so that we're sure that you are able to travel.
And can applicants go to just any medical facility to conduct these exams?
No, you cannot. When you have your appointment scheduled by the National Visa Center in New Hampshire, you will get a packet of information, and it will have your date and time of appointment. And contained in that information, or you can visit our website, is the only physician that is authorized to do the medical exam. And all of that information is there. There are set prices. There's information about how to make an appointment with the panel physician. And if I could also mention that it's really important when you come in for your immigrant visa interview that you have done that exam ahead of time. Sometimes we have applicants come in and they didn't do it ahead of time. So that means that we have to put their case on hold. And that's more time for us and more time for you as the applicant. And we want to minimize delays, because that is our purpose, is to reunite families, facilitate legitimate travel, and you can help yourself and help us by following everything in the packet of instructions to make sure that you're fully prepared for your interview appointment.
And I want to elaborate further on that. Sometimes We have folks come in who nobody has done the medical exam, but sometimes we have families where some have and others are awaiting medical clearance. And that can cause issues in terms of the immigrant visa expiration dates, right? So that can impact family travel plans, and we want to make sure that the family is able to travel back together to reunite in the United States.
That's right, because the exam, we have to limit the visa to whatever the exam is limited to. It's not like the exam is valid forever. So we have to limit it. So if only some members of the family come in with the exam already done and others have not done it yet, that's going to affect the ability of the family to travel together. So it's better, once you know when your appointment is, to go ahead and go to the panel physician for your exam so that you're fully prepared for your interview. Because if you're fully prepared and you qualify, we will issue your visa that same day.
Thank you very much. We have Diane on Facebook asking, how do I get a work permit to work in the United States?
Well, I think that's a question that we may not be best suited to answer. We deal in primarily non-immigrant visas for work purposes. There are a variety of different work-related reasons for which you can be issued a visa. I would encourage this person to look at the categories on our website and see what matches up with what she wants to do in the United States.
And this information can be found on travel.state.gov for general visa category information. We also have Kevin on YouTube saying, I have a question about my visa application. My B1, B2 tourist business visa was denied. Where can I go to get answers?
So answers about
why the visa was denied.
So we should have provided any applicant whose visa was denied with a written statement or with the provision of law under which it was denied. Oftentimes, I don't know in this particular case, but tourist visas may be denied because an applicant did not overcome the burden of showing that they are not an intending immigrant to the United States. Applicants meet and overcome that burden by showing us that they are so tied to their home country that after temporary travel for a legitimate purpose to the United States, they are going to come back. And they can do that in a variety of different ways. Work ties, family ties, social ties, all sorts of things. So what I would say is applicants are always welcome to reapply. However, I would caution against reapplying until life circumstances have changed. Perhaps an applicant is more rooted or has more evidence that they are rooted in their home country. They've, for example, traveled to other places and come back, or they have become longer invested in their jobs. A variety of different factors.
Perhaps they've started a family that they wish to return to.
Yes, yes. So, and only then when there are significant changes in circumstances, should they entertain reapplying.
And isn't it true that for the fees that applicants pay for the visas, they are entitled during the interview to a conversation with the interviewing consular officer and a statement under the relevant immigration law explaining why they have been accepted or denied a visa during that interview, as well as a letter explaining that during their visit?
All of those things are true. And I would add that our consular officers are highly trained in conducting that conversation and honing in on what they need to know in order to make a decision and continue processing.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie. Going back to Ivy questions, we have Jamal on YouTube asking, what is the general appointment wait time of IV cases that are documentarily qualified?
Well, Jamal, if it's what we call an immediate relative case, which is the spouse or child of a U.S. citizen, there is no wait. Now, it could be that maybe you just sent in the last document to the National Visa Center, so maybe it still might take a couple of months for them to send out the appointment. But if you are a family preference category, which could be the brother and sister of a U.S. citizen, the spouse of a legal permanent resident, those categories under U.S. law have less priority, they're less urgent. So there are certain wait times depending on what category that is. So I invite you to visit travel.state.gov, and there you can search on that page, Visa Bulletin, Bulletin, and there you will see a bunch of archive documents and the current Visa Bulletin, which will show what the wait times are for most parts of the world, and then some specific countries like the Philippines or Mexico or China. And you can look there and see, if you see that your priority date is, let's say, September of 2015, then and you see that that's there, then that means that your case is current. But if it's not, then you would have to still wait a little bit longer. And once cases do become current, then the National Visa Center starts the process of collecting documents.
Thank you. One last immigrant visa question before we finish out with an American Citizen Service inquiry. Zola from Facebook is asking, can a green card holder file for their spouse?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a wait because it's not a immediate relative category. So if you're a legal permanent resident and you have lived in the US and can apply for naturalization, it might be a better idea to first become a US citizen and then apply, because then it will be an immediate relative category. Or you can submit the petition as an LPR still, as a legal permanent resident. And then if and when you naturalize, you let the National Visa Center know, and then they will make the necessary arrangements.
That makes sense. We have Karen from YouTube asking, I'm a US citizen, but I live in Jamaica and my passport is expiring. Can I renew my passport online, or do I have to come to the embassy in person? So Karen, there's a few factors that influence my response to this question. First of all, I'm assuming that you are an adult. If you are not, then you do have to come into the US Embassy with one parent if you're over the age of 16, with two parents if you're under the age of 16. If they're both listed on your birth certificate or consular report of birth abroad. Now, the general application you would use to renew an adult US passport, if it was issued within the last 15 years, is the DS-82 application form. Now, I know that's a lot of letters and numbers and a form that, frankly, you should be using once every 10 years. So I'll direct you to go to jm.usembassy.gov and click on passports on the right-hand scroll bar where you can find more information. So to answer your question more directly, if you are a US adult citizen that has had a passport issued in the last 15 years, then yes, you can download the DS-82 application form from the US Embassy website, fill it out, complete it, attach your expired US passport, and then pay the applicable fees on pay.gov for the passport renewal. For a DS-82 passport renewal, that runs to $130, and you would attach that receipt from pay.gov to that application. You would submit that application, the receipt, and your expired passport by mail to the US Embassy, at which point it would be processed and a new passport would be sent to you by mail. Make sure that you include the applicable waybill with your application so that we have the ability to send it back to you. We are now going to be wrapping up our Consular Conversations live discussion. I want to remind everyone that you can visit the US Embassy Kingston website. You can also visit travel.state.gov. If you are a U.S. citizen, please remember to enroll in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program at step.travel.state.gov. And then finally, I would like to remind everyone that is listening from outside of Jamaica that the U.S. Embassy currently has a level 3 travel advisory for Jamaica. And this is largely due to elevated levels of crime and limited healthcare facilities should you run into healthcare issues while on island. So if you are planning any travel to the island, please consider this and read the travel advisory before traveling to Jamaica. Thank you again, and this has been our Consular Conversations on August 16th, 2023. Joining me here today was Consul General Anne-Marie Chiappetta and Deputy Consul General Maureen Smith, and I'm Vice Consul Andrew Cofton, hosting Consular Conversations Live. Thank you very much, Jamaica.